Professor Philippe De Meyer, who is going to talk from Ghent in Belgium.
So I have only some issues to share my screen. Oh, I have to do this. The share button is still gray on my side.
No, there should be a sharing button at the bottom of your window.
Yeah, it is in gray one, not in black white or white black.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
I do not see the share is still gray. Must be unlocked anywhere.
Yeah, I've given the sharing rights to you. Maybe it takes a moment, but can you check again if the button has changed color?
No, still gray.
You would have all the rights I can give you.
And I was looking at the settings of my computer. I have also put on the screen recording for Cisco, so that could not be it also. Okay, this makes it not easy at all. How can we do?
Joseph, with me, the chair is open. I don't know if that's normal or if it should be with Philippe.
Well, I've given it to Philippe. I can try to go back and forth. Okay, I was just switching back and forth. Philippe, can you check again now?
No, it's still gray. It's still gray. The difference perhaps is that I'm working with an Apple and not with a PC or so, but...
Oh my. No, it's not an issue in principle.
I see that in my privacy settings, the access is allowed, so that also is okay.
Maybe you need to start the video also, Philippe, in order to share.
Well, that's Philippe is sharing the video.
Yeah, that's open. The mute and
I can see him well. Maybe a message to everyone taking this opportunity on the top right. When you mouse over to the top right of the display, the shared display, you can change the display setting. And there you can control whether you see all videos, just the speaker's video, or going full screen. As of this situation, all I can offer, Philippe, would be that you quickly message the presentation to me, and I play it from here while you are speaking, and maybe in the meantime, Mario could take a few questions if you want to do that.
Yeah, I can send it to you by email, but it's not so short. It's a huge thing. So
you have it locally. It's not hosted somewhere.
No, I have it locally. I'll try to make it somewhat shorter. Perhaps you can start a discussion meanwhile.
Yeah. I can open the floor to questions while we are solving this technical problem. Because looking at the query and answers, it's more people having some technical problems or people saying that great presentations. But if someone would like to have a question to be discussed by the panelists.
Okay, I will try to do it without slides then. It's not so easy, but I will try, because otherwise it will be too long to find the file, I'm afraid. Do you agree, Joseph?
Mario?
Yeah, that's fine, Philippe.
It's not so easy for me. You may understand that I would like to show things. And first of all, I have to change completely in my mind it. But the idea was that I would like to speak about how people is sometimes manipulating maps. Manipulating, it could be that they would like to manipulate it, but it could be also that, let us say, their incompetence or their ignorance is making that they are badly representing things in a map. So first of all, we have to discuss what is a map. A map is a symbolized image of a geographical reality. So I'm splitting up, I have to do it completely in another way, sorry for that. The map is a symbolized image of a geographical reality. It means that not everyone has the same geographical reality. Your geographical reality could be influenced by your knowledge, could be influenced by your environment, could be even influenced by the country where you're living, the circumstances, the sometimes political issues. And the map is a symbolized image of a geographical reality representing selected features or characteristics. So you see already that by selecting the features or the characteristics that you can influence, again, the message you are bringing to the map reader, and it results in a creative effort, because a map is always somewhat or a creative. A map has to be beautiful. You are bringing a new message, but it must be also in a beautiful, even let us say, an artistical way, resulting from the creative effort of its author's execution of choice. Dus you are making choices. You cannot represent everything. We cannot make the one map. Think on what was writing Umberto Eco, and is designed for use when spatial relationships are of primary relevance. So we are, let us say, by a symbolized way representing the reality, and we have to make choices, and we can manipulate. So in my presentation, I had foreseen to explain you that we do this. We are describing locations, even in the Middle Ages or before, in the prehistoric times, we were using maps to define locations or even to define world views. And it's only in the 16th century that we are losing this combination of, let us say, world views and the importance of the influence of religious issues on it. It's only in the 16th century, 17th century that we have really topographical military maps that has this, let us say, land covering issue for it to be used. It can also describe paths. We have all the routing systems in our cars. We describe orientations with maps, navigation systems. We describe ownership with cadastral maps. But the most important, I think, today for all of us are the thematic maps. And thematic maps only appeared at the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century. Why? Because at that moment we had the Industrial Revolution and a need for inventories. And we had also new printing techniques, and retain that. That's very important. We had at the beginning of the 19th century new printing techniques allowing, let us say, the new needs for maps that were these thematic maps. And what we see today is that we have also new techniques, the digital era. And to be honest, it goes back to when it goes back. If we are looking back, let us say 1985 started computer cartography. 1980s, the end of the 1980s, we had the first operational GIS system. It is only less than 40 years old that we have the new techniques of the digital era completely changing again the cartography and the map making. A thematic map, thinking back to the 19th century, the 1980s, we had soil maps, we had geological maps, we had economic maps, we had sociological maps. All these maps were or inventories or static, not statistics, static. I mean, we were bringing a message on an analog piece of paper, but we could not change it. Now today, the inventory function of a map is completely changed to the digital products we have. And this digital products, we have a complete evolution line in it. We have now a mixing of GIS, GI technology, and informatics, but that I could not show. But the result of that are volatile maps. Maps we only observe. In the morning when I'm in my bed, I take the newspaper. On my iPad, I'm looking to the maps in the newspaper, but they are volatile. I'm only looking once to it, and perhaps they disappeared the next day because there is new information. So a huge question is, what are the rules in map making today? Are the rules dogmas that we must respect absolutely, or can we change it? So in my lecture about ethics and maps, I was giving that a lot of information on maps is a proof of ignorance or incompetence of the people making the map. I had some examples about, for example, the Los Angeles Times making a map of Europe where France was completely lost. It was a part of the Atlantic Ocean. It's incompetence of the map maker, but there are also expressions of some politicians, as Sarah Palin did during the elections 4 years ago, where she was putting in her mind Afghanistan nearby the United States. As people is ignorant, but there is also a lot of cartographic incompetence. And the most observed error during the whole COVID-19 was the maps where they were expressing total numbers by choroplate maps. What are choroplate maps? Choroplate maps are maps where you are coloring regions in variant degrees, from light red to dark red. Total numbers you never must color it that way. You have to make maps where your objects, your symbols, are increasing in the numbers parallel to the numbers that you have in the phenomenon. And I was happy to see that Maximo was using right maps and that the EU was using right maps. So there are a lot of issues on symbolization of maps that are wrongly done. So it brought me to question, is this always so involuntary? I think that in the newspaper it was really involuntary. But in my presentation, I had also a number of cases where, in fact, we are doing with maps on politics. It's cartographic manipulation. In the 1930s, the Republic of Ireland made its first postal stamp, where they were not only representing as Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, but included Northern Ireland without a border. Recently, a coin in Estonia was including a part of Russia, on the coin, on the map on the coin. So these are political, let us say, influenced maps. And this brought me also to a book that is well known from 1991, 30 years ago, but already often re-edited, How to Lie with Maps. We know all the publication of the 1950s, How to Lie with Statistics, but How to Lie with Maps. And How to Lie with Maps from Monmonier, who is telling you can, let us say, influence people by classifications. Another classification of, a simple example could be population density, but another classification gives complete other results. You can influence people by symbol use. I already mentioned one, but a very nice one we discovered was the manipulation by projection. And it's somewhat difficult to explain, but the discovery we did that in the Gulf War of 2003, all the maps published in Belgian newspapers, but also in some other Western European newspaper, all the maps were wrong. The shape of Iraq was somewhat tilted. Okay, it's depending on the projection you are using, but they were all tilted in such a way that the south of Iraq became very, very large, and that, in fact, the part of Iraq that was occupied by the Americans was larger visually than it was really on the terrain. So it was work done by one of my students, and he was trying to find out what's the origin of this information, of this wrong information. And it was clear that this wrong information came from the United States, and that the newspaper were drawing the same shape of the country that they received from the information services of the American Army. And the newspapers in West Europe, okay, they changed the colors, they put some other elements on the map, but they took over the shape, the wrong shape, let us say, wrong, a projection make it also wrong, but that really exaggerated view on the south of Iraq. So you see how maps can be manipulated to create, let us say, wrong information. So, and that is one of the topics we are doing research on. What's the reliability of the map representation? How can we do? Well, we are doing it by interviewing people, but we are also looking what are the stimuli people is absorbing when they look to map. You can do it by eye tracking, but you can do it also by encephalograms or combining to see what are the stimuli people is retaining when they are looking to the map. And this in a general context of how can we create awareness of the caution that people must take in making maps, but also in reading maps. And in the digital era, it's so easy for a non-cartographer, a non-map maker. He has all the digital technology he has only to push to a button, let us say, to make a map. But a large part of all the maps made by non-specialists are not respecting the rules and are messaging, are transmitting influenced information. So, and we live in an image society. Yeah? We are all quickly looking to the newspaper, to the information sites of CNN and BBC and all the other things, and we only remember the images we saw. Think recently to the American elections also, or the COVID issue, and then we print this image in our brain, but if this image is voluntary or involuntary, wrong, manipulated, or by incompetence wrong, then we influence the reader hardly, and that is for me as a cartographer an important issue that non-cartographic skilled people by push button is able to make maps. So we need to educate journalists. We need to educate people working with the digital applications. We need them to educate some cartographic basics and skills. Okay, sorry for this. I was trying to resume the ID behind my PowerPoint, but as we could not see the PowerPoint, I had to make a cross section of the IDs without the examples of map I had there. Okay,
many thanks, Philippe. Despite the fact that we have the technicality problem, has been very interesting to listen to you and to learn that there's the ignorance of the people using digital tools that can produce quite severe calamities as a result, that you need the expertise before using the tools. So thank you very much. Difficult to see the queries and answers because most of the people are making comments about the presentations, but I would like to animate a little bit the discussion. Gyola, would you have some topic to suggest?
Okay. Well, I was hoping that the attendees would ask questions, but I would be, I mean, I'm a researcher and an educator, so I would love to hear from other people who have attempted to teach space for ethics, digital earth ethics, or anything along these lines to international audiences and say something about their experience. I would love to hear these experiences.
Philippe, you have some experience with the maps and trying to teach how to produce proper maps and not to cheat?
Well, how to teach it. First of all, I'm working at two levels. First of all, I'm telling there the rules. But the exist rules. They are generally accepted, and they are somewhat depending, let us say, of a culture. You have the French culture taken over by the Netherlands, in fact, in the way they are seeing cartography. But you have also, let us say, the German, Austrian approach that is somewhat different, but also a logic structure. I'm not speaking of the, let us say, overseas countries. Mainly now, there are the roots. For the Western Europe, they are going back in a large part to the work of Bertin in the 1960s. And then the question is, are these rules absolute? Are these rules absolute? And that is what with students and researchers, we try to find out, are these rules absolute? It is clear that if you are looking at maps and they are not respecting at all, the message perhaps does not pass as good as you want, but it's in fact, first of all, what are the rules? But then a criticism on why are there these rules and are they really correct? And that's very important that people search for me. Are their rules absolutely absolute rules, let us say, yes. Yola?
Absolute rules in the sense of universal rules.
Well, universal, that's difficult. That's another issue. There are some rules that are universal, but there are certain, let us say, cultural influenced. The most typical I found is when you are looking to a plan in a city map in when you are waiting for the bus, for example. In Western Europe, we always orient it to the north, except if you have a strange city and that it is not filling well with this portrait format of the bus stop. But in Asian countries, they are always projecting the map. You are looking to the map, and then you are tilling, in fact, the map on the ground, and you see the city behind. Because if you are going on the other side of the bus stop, you see the map down, in fact. And that are things that are culturally influenced. For Western Europeans, it's not logic to make the Asian types of maps for the bus stops. So there are rules that are not general, but the fact that, for example, absolute numbers you may not represent in grades of a color, in tints, in fact, in grayscale, and that you have to do it by the dimensions of the symbol. That seems for me an absolute rule. You must do it in that way.
Massimo, following the same question of Yola, but not so much in education, what is your experience dealing with governments and trying to convince them of the importance of ethics?
Well, I mean, I think that in many areas, obviously, I think that we can only learn from other disciplines. I mean, there are clearly areas, and I'm thinking, I mean, there was the question of one of the participants about gene editing, which clearly brings the fact that, sort of within the medical profession, sort of questions of ethics are being discussed and debated, for centuries. And so there's clearly is a body there of practice in the global community that one can look upon. But at the same time, I think that ethics at the end goes back to values, and you have to recognize that different countries and different traditions and different histories bring with them different values. I mean, a simple example is that, in the Western world, and particularly neoliberal economies, there is clearly a tension between the value attached to individual freedom versus the value of the wealth of the good of the community. And you can see it clearly now in the COVID context, this tension between protecting the community, which means restricting, in some cases, the liberty of individuals, and those who are, sort of resisting fiercely that issue, given that, basically it is believing that it is their right to do as they wish. And clearly, sort of in Asia, in other parts of the world, there are different sort of kind of weights given to the value to the community, the importance of the community versus the right of the individuals. And you can't say that mine is right and yours is wrong. I mean, we have different points of view, and I believe they're equally legitimate points of view. And that's why I think that particularly a global organization like the International Society for Digital Earth, at a time when, there is so much, if you want, geopolitical tension and fragmentation, sort of kind of forces that try to split up the internet, try to split up, sort of areas for discussion and debate. The ISDE offers a great opportunity to actually bring and these different viewpoints and share them and discuss them. So that's why I think that creating this working group on data governance and ethics, it's a great opportunity for this point of view, because I cannot think that there is a better way than just bring these different viewpoints together and see what are the common points and what are the points of differences, and try to work through these issues.
Well, thank you. I fully agree with you. We have the experience here with this applications that trace you in order to assist with COVID-19, and many people are reluctant to be traced, and they refuse to do it, and so it doesn't work very well. And I invite the audience to join this working group, in particular our speakers. Philippe, you can consider joining the working group that may be under the leadership of Massimo, and Yola, also you're always invited to be in the society.
Thank you.
I think since we don't have so many questions and it's difficult to do an animated discussion through the internet, I suppose we can close the session now. So many thanks to all the speakers. Thank you to all the participants. And please remember, tomorrow we have a very interesting session on citizen engagement and education. So please look forward also to attend that session and to join the International Society for Digital Earth. Joseph, thank you very much for all your technical support. Pity that we had a problem not seeing the maps of Philippe, that after your talk, it seems to be more interesting than we would like to see them. But maybe we will have some occasion in that working group to see your work. So thank you, everybody. And I wish you what for me is an afternoon, for you maybe morning, evening, that have a nice time, and see you tomorrow in the session on citizen engagement and education.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Bye.
Thank you, Joseph.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye, Philippe.
Bye.